today we're going to talk about this year the conclusions of Black, and that's outside influence. Conclusions of Black are coming from their own hysteria. That means that their belief system is parasitical element believes at a time frame which has a conclusion of Black. That's during our time frame from yesterday to today. Not knowing anything that a parasite at this point, when put in connection or correspondence with the crown of life, one would survive after 10 days of death and would receive a crown of life. These kind of parasitical attributes are new body shells, and kind of like a new vertebrae kind of spectrum. And so you want to make sure that once we're going to throw some stuff out, today's date, memory is growing, and that both two things can't touch while memory is growing, old and new. And we're going to show Shelly, shell, any, at communications between any ports. And we're just going to throw that idea out there and many more of any's. And also the things which can't touch are old and new, and young and old can't touch, and also good and evil while growing. And so because water has memory, you go in between good and evil and say water has memory, and it will cling to the good side and will still grow. This too is like having what is called being able to survive out there. I'm considering the fact that old school Arabic people now have abdominosis after the spell of Miriam's in the Bible, which could only study medicine and couldn't be a prophet. Studying medicine at this time frame would be 3,000 years old. Having abdomen displacement unit, it seems to be Arabic to India. People who are not familiar with that area would seem to have a crown of life after what seems to be 10 days of death, or the reality, realistic virtue of that. Getting into the parasitical understandings of Africans today, their surrounding area would also be under the influence of memory is growing. Prehistoric bird parasitical studies before this time show that surrounding areas at communicative portions would be for a cancer cell, meaning that people who have cancer patients of old school America, old school Europe, are also in the area of birds in outside influence, Daniel chapter 9. On a wing of an abomination is another vehicle which makes desolate. This is prehistoric before getting to America, understanding that Black's intake has everything to do with his surrounding belief system from within a now non-knowing. People who are shook don't know the levels from which other people have gone. Birds are included, so you have to note that at Matthew 13, birds are sometimes considered to be Satan. Okay, the depths of which Satan can go seem to be pretty interesting levels. We're trying to get thermal cameras and cannot get one. Thermal camera would allow us to see these birds. Daniel chapter 9, I think it's going to have 1, 2, 3 animals come out and the birds' wings are ripped off. We've noted before that the garden cat will deliver body parts of this bird to your doorstep. And so that's been noted in the past as well. Okay, so we're going to move on from there. We're going to move over to acidics. Acidics compounds, and we're going to throw in some indies like we said before. Acidics compounds were for any time frame. Acidics compounds could cover up and roll over different objects. Can acidics splash? Could you get acidics and splashing at the same time? The other mind state that we're going to look for in Black is going to be concurrent in a minute, as we look at any innies. But first, let's look at parasites, as we just did a brief display of what parasitical Black may feel like in this kind of society. Parasitical Black or parasitical person, or any person, would be like one who is a child. What is a parasite? One, which we are, is like one who has been doing a certain deed for the most amount of time. When it comes to what we think Egypt and what the story of Jesus really is about, is being young and old, it starts off pretty young in his testimony and then moves on. However, it goes over the same stuff, root stems, building processes, the whole thing. But, hold on. I would say that one who says as a child, I don't want to overlap as a child with seeing elder people, claim that chemically speaking, the elders are overlapping. Okay, that's one. Two, is that white's affinity to their own parents shows where birds have already attacked. White's affinity would show the organ display, which we don't want to do. We actually try and take away the organ display and go to the portions which seem, once you understand memory is growing over time. And this is where the most interesting portions of the crown of life are at. 1, 2, 3 days, 10 days of death. Okay. Once you get the 10 days of death, you get a crown of life. To us, you can actually not go through as much death spell. You can still see yourself grow several times over. And would have what is capable of going next to other people and almost making them pass out. And the reason why is because both of y'all are over 1 and are emitting bone marrow. Or being able to survive would have already produced a new vertebrae. One who's used to the area at this point is different. Those who don't want to overlap as a child could say the most amount of time that we've been in this session, which we've never had this session about living a long time, the closest thing we have in our parasitical realm was don't overlap as a child. That's a pretty good assessment for one who is saying that all of my ancestors pretty much said this as a child. Therefore, the child being thinks this way. A parasite thinks this way. Other people think that by the time you actually groom yourself, you could possibly think this way or that way. Okay, so we don't want to go too off words. So now we want to get back to the aesthetics and what we think are any mind states. These are those are the outlining mind states that people fall into, not knowing that memory is growing. Old and new don't touch while memory is growing, and of course good and evil. Water had memory and would go in between good and evil, and would show one of the concepts of the crown of life after 10 days of death without going through the 10 days of death. Whilst being able to see this stuff, you would still get a crown of life around other people. You don't have to feel as deathly. Okay, as we go to the ascetics, we think that breakdown of person back down is through ascetics. It's pretty interesting at memory, because after some time you're just going to remember from your new stuff to your new stuff, and you'll get used to that. Memory at this point is just targeting a spot. All these in between any parts seem to be fascinating to a bird. Ascetics at this point we think are going to produce water, a covering shell like no other time frame, while being to a very still any thinking module. One who has their first Gumta, we think, should see it as a radioactive goo, called from Ninja Turtles, the goo, or the radiation goo, Ninja Turtles. This goo alone should be able to produce vertebrae and electrons. We suspect that there's 2 ways of looking at that. Which comes up as ascetics into your throat really is just a thicker, pulpier portion of the fruit. So its breakdown is very definitive. Its breakdown is now a thicker, pulpier portion of the fruit. Or, and that by the way is interesting also for seeing that the first goo itself just simply has airwaves come up as if there's air outside. Okay, those are pretty interesting, and those are without nostrils, and the other goo is just like you get goo all the time, and suspectfully you don't want to touch new and old garments. And so a goo could stand for ranging from very close by to very far away, being so young they'll be far away. And you start to range a frame around, which is called a graph, skin graph, ornamental idea. If we put our other ascetics at this point of goo and look for what are now respiratory but now going to the throat, your ascetics went to your throat, you would actually see, let's say, thicker pulpier portions of the fruit. This takes us to things like 1 and 2. 1 and 2 frameworks seem to be an old school David way of looking at things, as David might have meant Dios in Greek. Once you get to, and you'll find many times that once you are growing, you have nothing really to worry about. You're almost like a child's personification. Okay, so from there, what we want to throw in there is that we feel that even if you had memory 1, I can remember anything. I can remember my last Goobert. I can remember the last time I was almost killed and survived. I can now start having memory, which is very, very important to understand, especially amongst anybody. And but one who had an acidic drop, one who did an acidic drop and then did an acidic splash, we're looking for the splash coming up, would be in a bath house. They'd be in a bathtub area. of course, remembering one's old school point never went to this area, so now you have what are drawn over persons again, or more like drawn over how they are displayed, and then the after components. Okay, so after components before of black would be too normal. People, they would be too naive. They would have their own belief systems. People wouldn't believe in their full-out belief system would destroy black people also in an inner groove. Those are social outer inputs. Then what the mind can register as we go into the medical worlds, we have two GUIs, too many innies. Those are in between innies. So look for more goo. What we're thinking is that a vapor simply is going to come up around a time which is going to be congruent after you get around a lot. Meaning once you get around a lot, you've already overlapped other places or had other outer shell output inputs.
Okay, here's our scanner.
Of course, these are dealing with medical at this time frame. Okay, so at this time frame, we found nothing but outer shell. But the real question that's sitting still at some of the time frames
what happened? The birds woke up early.
were for, could you add an acidic downdrop to just the idea of gooey mangooey going to the furthest distance, which is the youngest part, claiming that acidics had to go through at the breakdown the abdomen of the build up, still not touch anything, and have what seems to be water or vapor broken down, or in the same time, and that's from acidic breakdown, acids, and then splashes are going to be that water. So once you see the acid and the splashes, you're there. But if you had many innies, that's innies and gooeys, would that still produce sap? That's a good question. That's where we're at, and that's where we're going to leave our note today. Leave our note and several notes today. Of course, by this point, these people cannot flip out in the spiritual form. We're taking fast notes. Or not in the spiritual form. We're taking fast notes and have been able to simply be fine. Our memory is now going through our own memory. It had to be a part of a parasitical digestive tract. Being next to people for 10 days and any death wrong, you might get a crown of life from your vertebracal abdomen, regrow spores. You most likely can't go next to them because you're such a different vertebrae now that they may almost pass out. Doing a good deed, by the way, is like the nature of something certain people will not be able to grow doing if they're doing a negative deed. Growing is the opposition point. That wasn't just doing the deed itself. This takes us to the breakdown units plus definitive paths. Getting there seems to be surrounded by frame-like portions, which the bird, I think, is going to associate being parasitical. In our understanding, or in the Bible, one of the agents plus one other vehicle, Daniel chapter 9, who are together in cahoots. We are just trying to keep everybody up to date and knowledgeable at the level from which we believe we are even at. That is even to have memory to begin with. Okay, so those are some of those notes. I think they're looking good. That's going to be it for now. We're going to wish you guys luck out there, and that most people are just usually family oriented, don't really think about these things. Going deep in there, we've been able to still make it, and going deep in there, we have found that they're deep in there themselves. Until next time, talk to you later. Bye. Okay, we wanted to jot down some of the ideas of needing room to growth. Needing room to growth is going to show some of the stages we may have jotted before. We're going to jot down now. Needing room to growth would still show, we're going to add this cancer spore segment, reversals by golden wedges of a fur, and adding one crystal from moth's nose. This should eat away at a golden wedge of fur being around one crystal moth's nose. It shall go into see-through, which is competition for futuristic purposes on a penguin level. It shows that black, if we went into see-through, would be at a 50-cent level, penguin level, and was competitive against other mixed origins still, and was smart as an investment, I would suspect, for being able to go into the future and still have merit and weight.
I'm so sorry about that, man.
Okay, getting into that which needs room to grow showed that the capabilities at this point gave us one more edge of futuristic pretenses and capabilities, which showed the portion, if you were looking after we saw the first room to grow, fixing, healing a broken bone, we feel that needing room to grow is very important, actually, in all the mechanisms of the body. And so here's just another example. When one were able to see into the future, the ideas that already are in the mold, I would have never noticed that before, of needing room to grow. Needing room to grow had several algebras, including going over to black shoulders, and different time frames, actually, of what we think are those cycles that you see so much when they're just basically regurgitating. They're basically, you'll see the flesh just come out of their shell, these insects, three-legged and four-legged insects. And there's several portions where we think the definitive portion, are actually healing broken bones. Alright, that's going to be the segment on needing room to growth. We added the wedges in there, and suspectfully they're just different time frames when you see that corresponding unit.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Okay, noting that one, future pretenses, over notes. Okay, round two, and so we're going to try and remember some of the escapes that we have here. We're going to be doing innies at this point. We're going to start off at smile and frown. Every time you are in a frown, what is going on in growth society and growth community, that one of these innies is going to support a central nervous system, a blood clot system, and a vertebrae system at the same time. And it's all due to the circulatory system of digesting food. Okay, so the first one we want to remember is that you want to smile versus a frown around every corner. And what people are going through is an any feature.
In the Bible.
If you are smiling around every feature, your morphological features and components will roll over, meaning right after you have a smile where you could have had a frown, you are now in a morphological feature. Okay, and so what we're going to do is try and get into why are some of these buds coming out
Hold on. Give me 1 second.
the way they are. Okay, so when we were doing skinny scandos, we discovered that the surrounding area of a prenatal growth, the surrounding area would be like grinds and gears, be like keys, they lock. Now these portions, once they go over, and they're going to start from a baby prenatal growth. And what it's going to allow to do for skinny people at prenatal growth is it's going to allow for the mind to see and grip at the same time the other side of the body. And these little grinds and gears are going to stand for acts, displays, animated versus non-animated portions of the body, and their gripping sensations are going to grip to the other side. So when you're first growing, you're looking for a portion which goes abdomen in a baby natal noggin. At that point, you're able to look for the surrounding area and find these key rings. Okay, so that's innie number 2. Now let's say that 1 and 2 innies of any kind will produce a vertebrae lock, a blood clot, okay, and some kind of growth. Innie number 3 is going to show that at growth, what you're looking for is actually, as you start to get old, what happens is that people remember their parents, so the organs started to inflate. And what happens is at basically a very brand new jolt of growth, you should look for only your new stuff, roughly, and have a new memory. What happens with all that stuff, I think when you do a few innies, what you're looking for is a lock, a chain reaction, one which is going to digest, like those grippers that were around when you first had baby noggin. Those grippers around there are going to digest, come to find out, and stimulate growth. So a very quick recap is I think they're close to a crystallized cell or an any sporcle, and 2 of those would produce a lock and a keychain. Okay, and that's just going to be it for the notes for now. Until next time, over and out.
Hello, this is Wilbur Chester. We were there when the Hindus went into the movies. We're there when they come out. We're their favorite fan. I can't remember all these people this far. There's one finger in the air. Wait, 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 wait. Happy Black Deeds Wait. Jolly Black Deeds Wait. Happy Black Deeds Wait. They just came out of the movies. It's nighttime now. We were there when they went inside the movies. We are there when they're leaving the movies. Wait, wait. Oh my goodness. One finger was in the air 5 seconds ago. This guy just failed. Wait, wait, wait. Happy Black Deeds Wait. One finger was in the air. White was around. Happy Black Deeds Wait. Can't wait to see this new movie. Happy Black Deeds Wait. Jolly Black Deeds Wait. Happy Black Deeds Wait. Good morning. Oh. I'm proud of you. We're gonna go for white on this one. We went for white. Every people. Happy Black Deeds White. White, white, white. We're just coming to understanding that we are their biggest fan.